Good morning, friends. It is good to be here this morning with you all. This is Journey Home Meditation, and this is our morning sit. So come on in and let's get ready for our practice that we will share together today. And if I haven't said thank you yet today, thank you. Thank you, thank you. And just begin this practice with a few still moments. Moving our bodies into different postures and positions can help us to open up pathways of emotions and quite importantly, open up our ability to breathe more easily. Especially with the ubiquitousness of phones and devices, we tend to be hunched down a lot more. And this closing down of the body has a long-term effect over time of inhibiting the breath. And so we find ourselves changing the way in which we breathe. As a way of being. And if you are finding that you're closed down and you're not necessarily receiving the breath that you require to best function, you're going to start breathing through the mouth to get larger gulps. And over time, there's a lot of shifts and changes that occur emotionally with us when we are hunkered down, closed in. One thing that I recognize is that a lot of the times that I am feeling vulnerable in a way that feels unsafe, or the times that I am defensive or insecure, maybe I don't like the way my outfit feels that day, or I'm having a bad hair day. That joke was always a lot more funny when I had the shaved head. But on those days, I also find that I tend to be more closed, making myself smaller if I can, and shutting down, arms across my chest. This body language is speaking to us, and it's not always a bad thing. It's just a matter of listening to it. we oftentimes think like, oh, I should learn about this so that I can change that behavior, so I can stop that. And sometimes that's helpful, but more, let's start building that relationship of intimacy with our own bodies so that we can know what it is we truly need to regulate in that moment. I was speaking with a person recently, and she's dealing with a lot of sadness, loss of a parent, loss of her animal companion, along with a series of other losses that just come with aging. And she was expressing that it's hard because she just feels sad a lot, and she doesn't know what to do about that sadness, and she doesn't quite understand why she's always feeling this sad, and she finds herself not wanting to be with herself and not wanting to be here sometimes. And through talking, I came to understand something about our sadness, that possibly our being sad is the care that we need. Our being sad is the way that we can provide love for ourselves in that moment. It is the way that we are tending to our needs. Because one of the things that I know about sadness is anytime I've shared it, I have a large likelihood of coming up against somebody who wants to take that away, who wants to make you not sad. Best of intentions, possibly, right? Probably. The other alternatives are you come up to somebody who doesn't want to hear about your sadness. Don't focus on the negative. You got to find the positive things in your life and focus on those. As if sadness isn't positive. Sadness is not a negative. We don't know this because we don't understand fully, I think, that sadness and happiness are teammates, right? They come together. So we think of them as opposites. The opposite of happiness is sadness. We see those spectrums on the doctor's office wall. How are you feeling today? And on the far left side, you see this really grumpy, angry, sad face. And on the far right, you see this ecstatic, happy face. And we think that's how far apart those things are. One's on one side of the spectrum, one's on the far other. But we forget that in every happy beginning is already the end. And we know this deep inside. We have a deep understanding of this, that this love will be painful. And we choose it not despite that pain, but we choose that with that pain as well. Okay, it's okay. This pain is a part of my love for this person. This pain is a part of my love for this animal. This pain is a part of the love I have for myself. And I can do that. That I can do. And they come together. And so I reminded this person that, that when you are feeling sad and you are crying, you are tending to that part of yourself that just needs to be sad right now. And that is taking care of yourself. She was worried that her sadness was taking her out of her ability to care for herself, like she wasn't being kind enough to herself. She used words like, the sadness is winning. I feel like the sadness is winning when I just sit and cry. And I just wanted her to know, and I wanted myself to understand better, that the ability to sit and cry, that's a way that we love ourselves. And that's a way that we love the world. It's just as much as our ability to sit and laugh. And my dear friend Sharon Rose reminds me often that when she shares about how it is she's so happy, is because she thinks that because she cries every day. And I know how I can be happy because I also can be sad at any moment. I can cry. I can access something at any moment. And we were laughing together about, how it could just be turning the corner in a grocery store and see a child trying to pull a large box of cereal off the shelf, and it's just so sweet and innocent and such a moment that a tear can come. Or when you see a puppy, never just forget it. It's going to happen. Just recently, I was down for a number of days with a sickness. I had COVID, and this was right at the time when my son was getting married, and so I knew the reality was that I was not going to be able to participate in the same way in that wedding. And I knew that I was not going to be able to be in the reception or to be able to hug my son on his wedding day and kiss him. And I was not going to be able to do the dance and all of the things I knew I was not going to be able to do. And my anger about this, I was frustrated and angry. It was blocking my access to my deeper emotions about this. And so I'm doing what I do sometimes when I'm sick, is I'll just veg out in front of a movie, something to, keep my mind occupied on something outside of my own misery. And I was watching some Adam Sandler comedy, and there's the touching emotional turn at the climax of the film, right? And I just found myself weeping, just like that shivering kind of, I believe what some people call an ugly cry, just, snot and tears and shivering. And I knew that I was not feeling this emotional about Chuck and Larry, but I needed help to access that. And as I was able to cry, the anger was gone, out of the way. No, it wasn't useful anymore. I had direct connection and access to my sadness, to my sorrow. And then I could see my sorrow for what it is, and my sorrow in this case was my joy of my happiness, of my connection to my son. Like, I knew that connection was there, and it was strong, and it was love, and it was pure. And that comes with sorrow sometimes, in the best of ways. So in those moments of whatever tool it is that you can use to access that place of your deeper emotions, you'll find that it's not so cut and dry. There's a complexity of shades and hues. It's like watercolors. It's so hard to emulate or fake what the water and the pigment can do on the page. Uh, you see those layers of translucency and um, there's a richness there. And that's what it is when you tap into that tapestry of your emotions. So let's have a few moments to sit still and allow those complexities to start to flourish, to start to come forward and blossom. Let's have a few moments of finding ourselves inside of our body. As you begin to settle into this moment, having our attention move towards our breath is a really easy tool and pathway to access that inner experience because you're going to breathe. You're going to breathe either way. You don't have to go out of your way to do this. And so, with that steady consistency of the breath, you can find yourself being brought into a state of, what's the word? Solace, maybe? This ebb and flow, this opening and closing, this receiving and releasing, this is a natural pattern of existence that seems to occur in every aspect of life. We see this everywhere, from the pulsating frequencies of the very earth that we are a part of, to the tides coming in and out on the shores, to the cycles of the moon as the moon moves around, and the cycles of our planet and our sun. This pulsating, ebbing and flowing, coming and going. When we find ourselves bringing our awareness to the breath, we can understand how intricate that really is for us to be locked in from the moment of birth to the moment of death with one of those cycles. So, sitting still in this moment, it's inviting us in to an awareness of a way of being that we always are. We always are. We get lost and forget and wrapped up in beliefs and ideas. But at our core, we are opening and we are closing. I have a poem I wrote this morning, sort of about this concept of stillness in moments. Wow, that one came out of nowhere. That was great. Sometimes our emotions come out in things like sneezes and yawns and coughs because we have a somewhat involuntary reaction to an emotion arising. We've trained ourselves so well to suppress that our body will sometimes take over. And I don't know if you ever had this experience of when you start to yawn, all of a sudden you feel the quiver in your chin and this openness in the chest. And if the emotions are riding the waves of whatever movement that it can find through our body. Well, here's the poem. The end result is not a waiting sort of happiness like a door prize. Your meat and skin of your body will loosen on your arms, and its thinness will become a transparency of veins and arteries where your life's work will be contained in shaking memories just under the surface. And they will ask you if you have found happiness, and you will not have the words to say that it is not what you came to take, but to leave behind in the wet reflections of their impossible eyes. I think all this seeking of things outside of ourselves is a way that we find one another. But if we stop there, if we stop at finding one another, finding happiness in somebody else, finding joy, finding love, finding desire, finding sexuality, finding gratification, if we stop in finding it in the other, it will always be going away. Always. And at a certain point, um, you can learn a level of helplessness that um, is not the good kind of release of control, but rather the belief can start to form that, well, it doesn't matter because it's all going to go away. So I'm just going to stop finding love in others. And we shut down to protect ourselves. But if we don't end the search for love when we find it in another, we'll see clearly, more clearly, but is probably a better way to say, we will find it more accessible to understand that love is within us. It's right inside of there. You contain it. Somebody else can find their love in you, and you can find your love in them. But when we can keep seeking and find where it's coming from, it is from within of ourselves. And that's what that poem is somewhat referencing, is that it's not something that we're going to find somewhere else. It's more of an uncovering, an unearthing, a digging, and we find the wellspring of all of this comes from right in the center of our being. How about we get to Appalachian Elegy today? I'm ready to do another one. Today we are on number 22 of Bell Hook's Appalachian Elegy Poetry in Place. I should have enough light. Sometimes falling rain carries memories of betrayal there in the woods, where she was not meant to be. Too young, she believes in her right to be free in her body, free from harm, believing nature a wilderness she can enter, be solaced, believing the power that there be sacred place, that there can be atonement now. She returns with no fear, facing the past, ready to risk, knowing these woods now hold beauty and danger. That's a beautiful piece. That's a beautiful poem. I can only think that this young woman that she's speaking of, the poet is speaking of in this poem, is possibly herself. Sometimes falling rain carries memories of betrayal there in the woods where she was not meant to be. There's places that where we have been harmed. Memory can live in these small things, right? And can come up for us. And the poet's reminding us of that beautifully so. Sometimes falling rain carries memories of betrayal. But then it goes on to talk about atonement, that there can be atonement now. And whenever I hear atonement, because of my upbringing in the church, I think biblically. The atonement for your sins, or the atonement of this is one of the promises of Christ is the atonement for humans, for humanity. But in this case, I think of baptism. Sometimes falling rain carries memories of betrayal. It is within that very thing, therein lies the liberation. Therein lies the atonement. Therein lies atonement. Means reparation, to repair something, something broken or some disconnection with God, in the biblical sense. But to atone for something, to atone for one's sins, is to repair. It's not just simply saying I'm sorry, but it's a work of reparation. And as the poet sang, sometimes falling rain carries memories of betrayal, there in the woods where she was not meant to be. And then the poet comes to find solace in the wild places. She returns with no fear, facing the past, ready to risk knowing these woods now hold beauty and danger. There it is. There it is. Like, we are complex. We are part of complex systems. And in this place, there is pain, and in this place, there is healing, and in this place, there is beauty and joy and sorrow and fear and all of those things. And so when we are really getting stuck in any one of them, the practice is to sit in stillness and allow for the subtle and quiet voices of the ones in the shadow of the feeling we're having to come forward. And sometimes we need help with that. Bell hooks helps me all the time. Poetry helps me all the time. And being with my breath helps me all of the time. So I hope that this practice might give you something to connect to. Thanks for being here. If you like this, please engage with comments, with messages. I really appreciate receiving the messages I receive. Let's have some dialogue around these ideas. What do you got to lose by engaging with something that you participate in? And that's all from me. Adios.